Alright, shalom to the Israelite community. Alright, Hebrews. You know, us Israelites that done woke up, it's a blessing from Almighty Yah to be woke and have a sense of who you are and where we come from. Alright, the vast majority of our people are still in mental bondage and will rather choose captivity over sovereignty. The Israelites' problem, is disbelief. Israelites' disbelief caused our problems, is that we didn't believe in the Creator solidly like we supposed to have done. It's like now, man, if you look at the Israelites, man, is stuck in our enemy's religion. They stuck into our enemy's religion, the religion that was put on us in the slavery days. And you look at them, they got way and heart and trump and happiness for the religion that they're in that was given to us during captivity. They got way respect, honor, and everything, and get excited and jump for joy and everything from the religion that was put on us in the slavery days. And Israelites, men, would defend the religion that was put on us in the slavery days, and they have no knowledge of true worship of Almighty Yah, because worshiping and believing in the God that was given us in the slavery days is not worshiping Almighty Yah, and it's far from it. It's far from it. That's why we messed up as a people. But I want to show some of the zeal and enthusiasm that the Israelites have for our captors' religion that was put on us. All this is a form of disbelief in Yah, even though they say they believe in the Creator, but they really not, because they believing in demigods. You know what I'm saying? They believe the demigod is the reason for everything and the solution. That's not believing in the Creator. Alright, look, check this out. Look at them. And then watch this. And then I'm going to read some scriptures on how we Israelites were coming out of Egypt, and how our heart never was really solid with the Creator, and how we was half and half. And then that's why come the Creator say these people gonna mess up, man, when they get into the land, and they ain't gonna do right. Alright, listen. Now we know for sure that we got this form of worship during the slavery days, and we know just about all the churches that done sprung up from the slavery days to now. Man, that they got zeal and honor for the religion that was given to us in oppression. Man, it's almost like, man, I was reading the meanings of this, and man, our enemies is real slick, because they know that this Stockholm syndrome describe us to the T, and then how did they try to say that it's not a proven theory, or that, man, it's not just absolutely right, man, you know what I'm saying, about the Stockholm syndrome. And man, we Israelites, man, suffer from that, and that's what our captors know, is that we done fell in love with the oppression. The same as Egypt, man, they got the same people. If we was willing to go back to Egypt and not take the chance of sovereignty, or understanding the mission that the Creator put Prophet Abraham on, then man, it's awful. Look, check this out. All right, look, Stockholm syndrome. Look, Stockholm syndrome is a proposed or theory that tries to explain why hostages sometimes develop a psychological bond with their captors. It is supposed to result from rather a specific set of circumstances, namely the power and balance contained in hostage taking, kidnapping, and abusive relationships. Therefore, it is difficult to find a large number of people a large number of people who experience Stockholm syndrome to conduct studies. Meaning they done studied us and they know that we suffer from that, and that the Israelites would rather identify with their captors' culture and religion and worship than, try to find out what we were before captivity. You know, all right, man. And I want to read a little verses, but Almighty, y'all already got us figured out. He already got us figured out, and that's why this book was created, because it's like a testimony to how we were and how we are gonna be. And the Creator don't miss. He can't miss. He ain't gonna miss. But I want to read this here, man, about how we Israelites fit this to a T. So if the Tanakh say it, and then you look at our characteristics and our makeup as a people, then it should be identical to the Tanakh. I mean, it should be identical. The history should be identical to the people's actions until we come into heritage. And man, the Tanakh history is identical to the way that we are now, because we are the Israelites. But look here, when you get down to the book of Jeremiah, and then you get to chapter 2, and then you get to 14, this is coming out the Tanakh. Sometimes I read the King James Version, but the Tanakh give you a clear version, and how the King James is like the Christian putting a spin on our history. Sometimes you get, some clear history that's identical to the Tanakh verses. All right. This is Jeremiah 2:14. Is Israel a bondman? Is he a homeborn slave? Then why is he given over to plunder? Lions have roared over him, have razed their cities. They have made his land a waste, his cities desolate without inhabitants. Those two in North and Tapanhes will lay bare your head. See, that is the price you have paid for forsaking the Elohim your Yah, while he led you in the way. What then is the good of your going to Egypt to drink the waters of the Nile? See, we was oppressed in Egypt, and they vaxxed us, and we didn't have a good time, and they dogged us out. But yes, the Israelites like to identify with their captors, and knowing that them folks wasn't no good to us. You know what I'm saying? That's like a woman or like a no good man. Attracted to a no good man. It's rare to find a woman that reject a no good man, and how that women are more excited by guys that's just not right. A bad reputation and all of those type stuff. But it's the same as what we did and how we are. Look, and then when this was written during Jeremiah's time, in this history is during the Babylonian Wars, when we broke bad after being on the land for about 800 years from exiting Egypt, and then how that we could never get it right, and that how that we chose, oppression and servitude over freedom and sovereignty when we went to Egypt to do their religion and to stay in Africa to sojourn there, forsaking the covenant and our duties that was bestowed upon us after being liberated from Egypt. You know, 800 years before, but the book of Jeremiah ain't gonna be out. Man, he gonna be the last prophet for the 99%. You know, it was 1% that was captured and taken to Babylon. They were freed and up on return. That'd be the book of Ezra, Nehemiah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. And it from 530 BC to about 420 or 430 BC, 538 BC to about 430 BC or something like that, and then that's the end. And then the Greeks come in and get them. And we that he's talking about now, that in Africa were the ones that was enslaved and brought to captivity, that love our slave owners and captors culture. You know, we was kidnapped. We still some kidnapped people after all this time. But you see what the scriptures say? Is Israel a bondman? Is he a homeborn slave? You know, that's just how we are here in captivity. Is how we done accepted the abuse from our captors and then accepted their religious and their religions and just, man, just love the the predicament that we're in as a people, because it's easy. It's easy for us to sit here and let them, do for us, and then they do the wrong thing for us. All right. What then is the good of your going to Egypt to drink the waters of the Nile? What is the good of your going to Assyria to drink the waters of the Euphrates? Let your misfortune reprove you. Let your affliction rebuke you. Mark well how bad and bitter it is that you forsake the Elohim your Yah. That away for me is not in you. See how that away uh, uh, for the slave owners' religion, man, is in the Israelites. You know, they'll jump and holler and scream, you know what I'm saying, for a religion that was given to us, you know, in the slavery days. But when it comes to just getting down and studying it to knock and grasping on to the truth, the Israelites don't want to do it, and did how that they would rather stick with what our captors gave us. See, our captors didn't give us what they call the Old Testament. He didn't give us that. He didn't give you no parts of that. Is why he called it old. Like, something you throw away, or something that ain't good, or something that is discontinued and so forth. And then he created what he called the New Testament. And then that's the history of the peoples that we abandon our heritage to, along with the strangers that never left our land, that was kin to the Babylonians and so forth. So, they 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 doing what we should have had been doing, was staying on the land worshiping Yah. But because we was in captivity in Egypt at one time and kept a strong connection to that idolatry nation, is that we went to it to live during our problems and didn't have the belief in the Creator like we should have had when Prophet Jeremiah told us to stay on the land and don't go into Africa, but how we chose to, because we was in bondage there, and we could identify with our captors that once held us in captivity, and that's that Stockholm syndrome stuff. The same as us. The meaning was created for us. But look here, all right. Let your affliction rebuke you. Make well how bad and bitter it is that you forsake the Elohim your Yah. That away from me is not in you, declares the Elohim Yah of hosts. For long ago you broke your yoke, tore off your yoke bonds, and see, I will not work On every high hill and under every veteran tree you recline as a whore. I planted you with noble vines, all with choice seed. Alas, I find you changed into a base, an alien vine, though you were washed with nitrogen and used much lye. Your guilt is ingrained before me, declares the Elohim Yah. How can you say I am not defiled? I have not gone after Belial. Look at your deeds in the valley. Consider what you have done, like a lustful she camel. You know, we was messed up. We was messed up from the start. And I'm going to take us to the start. How we got messed up is that we identified with our captors' religion and belief system and didn't want to let it go. And that was the Queen of Heaven worship that we did in the book of Jeremiah, or that we did from the time that we exodus all the way up to the time that we was driven out the land. The only time, we had kings that would clean the land up of the Egyptian and Amorite religion, but we would go right back to it after something happened to that king and so forth. All right, let me show you Israelites this. Let's go to Ezekiel. Man, it'll be Ezekiel, I think 23. I'll turn right to it. All right, this is why we got Stockholm Syndrome as a people, is because we love our captors and what they do to us, and we don't desire sovereignty. And the Israelites been like that for a long time. Look, the word of the Elohim, this is Ezekiel 23. The word of the Elohim came to me, O mortal, once there was two women, daughters of one mother. They played the harlot in Egypt. They played the whore while still young. Their breasts were squeezed, and their virgin nipples were handled. Their name were the elder one, Ohala, and her sister, Ohalbala. They became man, and they bore sons and daughters. And as for the name of Ohala is Samaria, and Obala is Jerusalem. Ohala whored while she was man, and she lusted after her lovers, after the Assyrians. You know what I'm saying? So, man, we've been messed up as a people for a long time. And we will identify with our captors' belief system after they get us in bondage. And that's why come they sought us out in Africa to get us into this captivity so they can put their religion on us, knowing that we're going to have Stockholm Syndrome after that. And then, the Israelites going to be stuck. And then that's what happened to us. And that's what we're going through now. And I'm going to show y'all how we always identify with our captors, with our captors system. Man, let's go to Exodus. I say Exodus 14. Exodus 14:11. Let's see what it say. Exodus 14:11. Alright. Yeah, the Israelites, man, will love and honor and hold up our captors' religion and belief system, but we won't do that for what's right and what's ours, and Yah worship belongs to us. Here it is. We got a worship that we can lead and control and have others come over to it, and we control it. But the Israelites would rather live up under and believe in the system that we acquired in the slavery days. And we know that Christianity is what the Israelites got put on them in the slavery days. That's without question. Now, you got to go back past the slavery days to identify with your culture and true history and name And then the Tanakh explained what happened to the Israelites and how we went into Africa and how we would lose our heritage. So we are those people. And it's easy to go back to your Israelite heritage. All right, well, I'm supposed to be going to Exodus 14. Exodus 14:11. And then let's see what it say. Exodus 14:11. I know, that we had come up out of Egypt, and then how we Israelites, man, didn't want to go into the promised land to do Yah worship, and how that soon as we face problems, that we would rather go back, man, to Egypt and be in bondage there. All right, so let's go to Exodus 14:11, and let me see what it say. All right. All right, 14:11. And they said to Moses, was it for want of graves in Egypt that you brought us to die in the wilderness? What have you done to what have you done to us, taking us out of Egypt? Is this not the very thing we told you in Egypt, saying, let us be, and we will serve the Egyptians? For it is better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. Man, that's awful. That's terrible. That's terrible. And then that's the same mentality that the Israelites have now. Ain't it better for me to serve my enemy's religion than to be free mentally and worship Yah like I supposed to? They would rather serve their enemies. That's the way our people is. But you see that right there. What we told Prophet Moses, was it for want of graves in Egypt that you brought us to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us, taking us out of Egypt? Is this not the very thing we told you in Egypt, saying, let us be, and we will serve the Egyptians? For it is better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in this wilderness. Man, that's awful. But that's what our people did. And then go to Exodus 16:3. And let me see what it say. Let me see what it say. All right. Man, where the 3 started? All right. The Israelites said to them, if only we had died. Look. All right. This is Exodus 16:3. The Israelites said to them, if only we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we ate our fill of bread, for you have brought us out into this wilderness to starve this whole congregation. See, we wouldn't want to take a chance, in worshiping Yah. I just showed you where it said that the Egyptians broke us in, that we was virgins, that we didn't, coming from our father Jacob, and then how he was over his sons, and then how it wasn't no false god worship with him. It wasn't no false god worship with him, and Jacob came into Egypt, you know what I'm saying, and he passed there, and we went and buried our father, you know what I'm saying, back in our inheritance. But while he was alive, we didn't worship no false gods. No false gods was worshiped, with Jacob, our daddy, around. And then when he died, and then the Egyptians broke us in. They broke us in, and we was the first, to get on they gods, was the first gods that we was on, because when we was with our daddy Jacob, it wasn't none of that. And when we was, and then when our father Isaac was around, it wasn't none of that. You know what I'm saying? That the false god worship came after our father Jacob passed away, meaning Egypt. And then them Egyptians took advantage, man, and hurry up and put us on a religion, because they, man, knew that we was probably gonna have that Stockholm syndrome, since they was the first to break us in. then we was going to constantly be identifying with their system, which was doomed for us because it's idol worship, God's sons worships, and all that old stuff that, eventually got us. All right, so we see Exodus 16:3 that, we constantly complaining, saying, let us go back to our captors and serve them because then we had food and we had party and we had everything. That's what's been the Israelites' problem the whole time, is that we likes to party. They likes to party. Likes to party. Oh man, at a party, man, gonna have nothing but Israelites there. Alright, let's go to Numbers 14:4. And we gonna see what it say. Numbers 14:4. Yeah, we Israelites, would rather take the easy way out. And that's like believing in that religion that was given to our ancestors under distress during the slavery days is easy to worship. And it keep you in sin, because if you sin, you just say, well, Jesus, forgive me. You know what I'm saying? And then, you can start sinning all over again. Whereas with Yah and our ancient laws, man, it's gonna bother you that constantly sinning and so forth, especially if you got, way for the creator. So this is Numbers 14:4. And let's see what it say. Alright. Alright. And they said to one another, let us head back for Egypt. Then Moses and Aaron fell on their faces. You know what I'm saying? Alright. If the whole we died in the whole community broke into loud cries, and the people wept that night, and all the Israelites rallied against Moses and Aaron. If only we had died in the land of Egypt, the whole community shouted at them. Or if only we might die in this wilderness. Why has the Lord taken us to that land that is filled, that we may fall by the sword, our wives and our children be carried off? It would be better for us to go back to Egypt. And they said one to another, let us head back for Egypt. You know what I'm saying? And then that's, man, we was messed up mentally. Now that's an idol worshiping nation. Now we know that our father Jacob, he didn't have none of that the god systems, the demigod system that Egypt worshipped, that wasn't among us when he was alive. But when he passed, then they put us on their religion, and then, kind of did us wrong. And then, how we stuck to them and loved them over freedom and sovereignty that Almighty Yah promised us when he liberated us from Egypt. Alright, let's go to Numbers 16:13. Numbers 16:13. Man, it's awesome. It is awful how we Israelites been. It is awful how we been. Alright, if you go to 16:13, let me see, 16:13. We will not come. Let me see. You should guess, man, we will not come. Moses was much aggravated. This number 16:13. Yeah, we Israelites love oppression, and hates to be free and have sovereignty where we can lead our own selves and govern ourselves and so forth. It is not enough that you brought us from a land flowing with milk and honey to have us die in the wilderness, that you would also lord it over us. Even if you had brought us to a land flowing with milk and honey and given us possession of fields and vineyards, should you gouge out, you know what I'm saying? So, we didn't want to do right even by Moses and him leading us. Now let's go to Numbers 20:15 and let's see what it say. Numbers 20:15. Alright, 20:15.
that our ancestors went down to Egypt, that we dwelled in Egypt a long time, and that the Egyptians dealt harshly with us and our ancestors. And we cried unto Elohim, and he heard our plea, and he sent a messenger who freed us from Egypt. Now we are in Kadesh, the town of the borders of your territories. We was telling the Edomites how they had did us in Egypt, and then how we Israelites, even after being freed from Egypt where we was in bondage, that how we just wanted to go back and identify with our captors and so forth. And then let's do Numbers 21. Numbers 21. Numbers 21, that'd be 21:5. Let's see what it say. And the people spake against Yah and against Moses. Why did you make us leap? Look. Numbers 20. And the people spake against Yah and against Moses. Why did you make us leave Egypt to die in the wilderness? There is no bread and no water, and we have to come to loathe this miserable food. The Lord, that's how we've been the whole time. And then in the book of Jeremiah, we would run back to Egypt, showing our disbelief in the Creator, and that caused our doom. That caused our doom. We never recovered. We never recovered. We never recovered. And then Almighty Yah said that we would do it. Man, if you go to Deuteronomy, let me see, that'd be Deuteronomy 30. Or is it 32? Let's pull this up. Let's pull this up. Because he said we will be just like this. And that's let you know that it's a creator. If he can say how people would be, and then they are identical to that, man. All right, we go to 31. That'll be Deuteronomy 31. 31. 31:16. 31:16. All right. The Elohim said to Moses, you are soon to lie with your fathers. This people will thereupon go astray after the alien gods in their midst in the land that they are about to enter. They will forsake me and break my covenant that I have made with them. Then my anger will flare up against them, and I will abandon them and hide my countenance from them, and they shall be ready prey, and many evils and troubles shall befall them, and they shall say on that day, surely it is because our Yah is not in our midst that these evils have befallen us. So, and then when you get down over here to 29, this prophet Moses telling us this. For I know that when I am dead, you will act wickedly and turn away from the path that I enjoyed upon you, and that in time to come misfortune will befall you for having done evil in the sight of the Elohim and vex him by your deeds. So that's what we did in the end. So, those prophecies come to pass. Those prophecies come to pass about what Almighty Yah said, how we was going to break bad. If you look at all the times that we see that we wanted to go back to Egypt and worship their religion, then, he knew we was going to break bad eventually. And then that happened in the book of Jeremiah. See, that's that Stockholm syndrome, going back to identify with our captors and push their system and so forth. All right, but when you get to Jeremiah 44, this is 800 years after Exodus, and that we still hadn't got it right. We still hadn't got it right. We still hadn't got it right. And then when you get over here, this our last act on the promised land, going back into Africa to have Stockholm syndrome. Thereupon they answered Jeremiah, all the men who knew that their wives made offerings to other gods, and all the women present, a large gathering, and all the people who lived in Pathros in the land of Egypt, We will not listen to you in the matter about which you spoke to us in the name of the Elohim. On the contrary, we will do everything that we have vowed, to make offerings to the Queen of Heaven and to pour out libations to her, as we have done, as we used to do, and we and our fathers, our king, and our officials in the towns of Judah and the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty to eat, and we were well off and suffered no misfortune. But ever since we stopped making offerings to the Queen of Heaven and pouring out libations to her, we have lacked everything, and we have been consumed by the sword and by famine. So that's Stockholm syndrome now. That Stockholm syndrome now. And the Israelites, you know, we would choose captivity over sovereignty, as I just demonstrated, and that's the way that the Israelites are now with worship. You know, the total disbelief in the Creator and how we embrace our captors' religion. Our captors' religion. Man, it's awful. It is awful, but that's the way it is. All right, Israelites, I just want to put that little history out of how that we, happy joyfulness and gladness with the religion and the customs that our captors put on us, and that when you are faced with Yah worship, how you turn your nose up at it. Man, that's Stockholm syndrome.